MV was very different in that respect because it really was a true full production studio. And I can't think of one other instrument made that you could do everything from beginning to end to a mastered CD burned red book qualified edition that you could deliver for distribution.
The actual software sequencer was developed by another company. They had outsourced
the sequencer to be done by somebody else, which totally made sense why when we came into it, we didn't understand
anything because we came
it wasn't
thinking
rolling.
It wasn't a rolling sequence.
Yeah. When you go into the drum kits and you go into the section in there, those are all like original OG classic drum machine stuff. Do drum kits and you could also do instruments.
Full on instruments because it was a multi-sampler.
Yeah, because you could do the four-way velocity cross switch, the whole 9 yards. You can do, and there were some guys that we knew that would play the pads that would just, amazing jazz chords. They were like, but it was a real true instrument at that point. And so it could do both. The MPC didn't really do instruments all that well.
No.
So you could type in a bass line, be like doom 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 doom, and make
it would all be off of one sample that you had to, using a multi-pitch or something like that. But it didn't work as a full multi-sample like this.
What's cracking? I'm Nick Danger, and you are now tuned into the Art of MV. Once again, welcome to my channel, and thanks for watching the video. Like, share, subscribe, and so let's talk some MV shit, right? So, first off, most of the sounds you're hearing in the background are the synth patches that are MV patches, no Phantom patches, no Integra patches, just me dealing with the synth engine inside the MV, as well as the vintage drum programs and drum emulations and kits that come inside the MV, like the 808, the CR78. I used that one on the little intro track, and all the V-synth drums that they jammed into this thing, right? To prove a point, man, to prove that this is a very capable and rich instrument. Now it came out, so it's 2 years old now. It came out 2021, right? 2 years old. This is 20 years old. Came out in 2003. That makes it 20 to 20. The MV30 featured the U220 PCM sound card as its sound set, which either featured samples or waveforms. So go figure. 220 for the MV30. Yeah. Alright, so a little pattern for you guys real quick that you might not have known about. But yeah, man, I wanted to say the reason I call this the X Factor, and I'm going to really get into the X Factor part later, but one reason I call this the X Factor is the MPC and its footprint loom large over anything with this 4x4 matrix to react with, right? Anytime you get 16 pads, you're going to get MPC comparisons. You're going to get people thinking that it's about finger drumming. The MV is not about finger drumming or being like the MPC. Roland just in an attempt to answer something that Akai had pulled off, decided to adopt this particular interface. And this interface was synonymous with MPC. This looks almost identical to the MP3000, the MPC 3000 in the video, right? But the pads were always, people will always say the pads are horrible. The pads are not what the MPC was, and they weren't. They were kind of truth in that, but there was a reason behind it. It's not designed to act like that. So I have a couple a pattern pulled up, and I'm going to prove a couple of things. One is that this doesn't have an arpeggiator, but apparently you can create sounds that sound like they're arpeggiated. So I have a patch pulled up. I'm going to go on the keys. So you hear that little running sound in it. If I press the pad, just hold it, it'll just keep moving. So when I press partial edit, when I saw the sample edit table over here, I saw that the loop mode on here is forward. Now that means it's spread out through the keys, and each key is looping forward when you hold it. Until you release it, it's going to keep moving. It's never going to stop. They've altered the sustain and the decay, and they've made some alterations to keep that sound moving forward when you hold it on the keys or on the pads, right? Now that brings up something else, that the MV, where this 16 by 16 matrix is different than the MPC. The MPC is designed to go down in semitones, and the 16 level was not initially designed to be 16 levels of instruments. It's just 16 levels of a sound. And like Michael Trans said in the clip, it wasn't a multi-sampler. So it didn't have the whole the instrumentation that the MV had. So if you figure the MV's pads kind of have to act like keys, in case you don't have a keyboard. So you gotta remember, none of the MVs came with a keyboard, but since these are in regular form, this would have to mirror that. So the patterns are there, and to people who can recognize the patterns, you can play instruments and you can play solos and, like he said, jazz chords and all kind of notes, right? If you can find the patterns that correspond with the right notes down here and go from bank to bank, you can do whatever you want. And I think that's what they designed it for. And so much so is that the new Verse Lab actually leans more towards that instead of finger drumming. Like, once again, I hear it all the time in the group. When you're playing a section, what about that little hiccup or the little space? That's because it's not designed for the whole finger drumming thing. This is just an input mechanism to input your information. And they have different ways for you to input it, like how I just showed you. But that way doesn't really lend itself to the finger drumming. I just don't think the percussive and the immediacy of it is there. It is there enough for you to lay the part in a sequence, but not to perform it live. And that is the difference in how they've designed the pad matrix on the MV as opposed to the one on the MPC, right? Now, the X Factor. I want to roll this beautiful bean footage again, and we're going to go into the crack epidemic. So, in the early 2000s, there was a crack epidemic that affected hip-hop more than any other music genre, simply because of the proliferation of cracked software in bedroom studios. There were so many cracked versions of Reasons and FL Studio going around, Sonar, Nuendo, Cubase. Everything had been cracked. And if it hadn't been cracked, then your homeboy had it, and you could just dub his, get his stuff off, copy his disc. And this put pressure on the hardware market and Akai's flagship product, the MPC. You see, the MV was never Roland's flagship product. There's only 4 of them: the 30, the 8000, 8800, and now the First Lab. Only 4. There's probably at least 15 MPCs. There's probably at least 15. I want to count them up. Let's see. MPC 61, MPC 62, MPC 62 Mark II, the MPC 3000, the MPC 3000 LE, the MPC 4000, the MPC 2000, the MPC 2000 XL, the blue MPC 2000 XL, the MPC 1000, the JJOS. You have the MPC 500. You have the MPC 1 now. You have the MPC Live, and now you have the MPC, which one? The MPC Retro, with the speaker on it. You had the MPC Touch before the MPC Live. That's 5 right there. Then that's not even counting the Akai Force and the MPC Studio, as well as the MPC Renaissance. You see where I'm going with this? It was their flag piece of gear. So right around the 2007, by the time the 8800 came out, people had moved on and had put so many MPCs in the pawn shop, man, that it was crazy. And this is where the fall off happened. Now, what did that do? That basically made MPC, at least Akai, sell the company to Newmark. Newmark rebuilt it from the ground up, kind of facing off with the machine guys, and that is where you get the newer MPCs from, is from that point on forward, right? The MPC X is the flagship MPC now. It's the most expensive, it's the most detailed, and with the connection to the MPC software that's out and the inputs, the adding on of the linear record mode as well, the MPC X has a lot of MV DNA in it. And I would say that Roland, knowing this, went in another direction with the MVs, as they always do. The MVs from 12 years ago is not going to work now. What they've done with that MV is kind of genius, and I hope to be able to bring some of you guys over to the dark side again, because it's a great piece of gear.